Can a single face from the past return to haunt you, only to appear years later on a street you've never seen before? For Ricardo and his young son, this became a shocking reality. During what seemed like an ordinary trip far from home, they encountered a woman who was the exact reflection of his late wife, a woman who had died 2 years earlier. It seemed impossible. Or was it? Stay with us until the end to uncover the truth. And don't forget to share where you're listening from, and please subscribe to our channel. Ricardo gripped the steering wheel tightly, the steady drone of the highway a somber backdrop to his thoughts. 2 years had passed since Juliana, his beloved wife, lost her battle with cancer, leaving a painful emptiness in his heart and in their son Lucas's young life. On this long-awaited trip to Curitiba, he hoped for even a fleeting moment of distraction, a brief taste of peace for them both. Lucas, absorbed in his tablet in the back seat, suddenly tugged at his father's shirt. "Papa, look at that lady. She looks like Mama." Ricardo's chest tightened. Slowly, he followed Lucas's pointing finger. Sitting against a cracked concrete wall was a woman with tangled hair and tattered clothes, but her face, Ricardo, felt the blood drain from his own. It was a mirror image, an uncanny reflection of Juliana in her final days. His world tilted. How could this be? Juliana had been gone for 2 years, laid to rest. Yet the woman's face clung to Ricardo's mind like a ghost refusing to let go. Once in Curitiba, the unsettling vision lingered. The very next day at an old gas station, Ricardo asked about her. The attendant said her name was Renata and that she appeared and vanished like a stray cat. The name stirred an ache he couldn't place. Ricardo couldn't let it go. That same day, he contacted Daniel, a private investigator, asking him to track down the homeless woman named Renata. He sent along the photo. A few days later, Daniel reported back. Renata had once been admitted to a public clinic 4 years earlier with an infection, lacking any identification. A nurse had noted she seemed to have escaped from an institution for vulnerable youth that had since closed. Ricardo shivered as puzzle pieces began to align. Desperate for answers, he pressed Daniel further, who soon obtained contacts from the closed institution. Days later, Daniel gave Ricardo the address of a former social worker, Ana Lucia Costa. Heart-pounding, Ricardo went alone. Ana listened cautiously as he explained his search for Renata. Her face softened with recognition. "Renata, I remember her. She was brought to a municipal shelter at about 15. She was an abandoned infant with no surname, so we registered her as Renata dos Santos." With trembling hands, Ricardo showed her the photo. Ana's eyes widened. "That's her, without a doubt." Ricardo then revealed the shocking resemblance to his late wife. Ana was stunned. "Your wife's name was Juliana Oliveira? That doesn't make sense." She sifted through old files until she found a yellowed form, an infant left anonymously in 1991 with a note mentioning a sister, Marina Oliveira. The parents cited financial hardship. Ricardo nearly dropped his cup. He had discovered Juliana's twin. The truth was devastating. No one had ever spoken of it. Carrying this heavy revelation, Ricardo returned to São Paulo, to the home of Juliana's parents, Dona Lucia and Señor Francisco. Arriving unannounced, he asked directly if Juliana had a sister. Francisco, his voice barely audible, admitted the truth while Dona Lucia wept silently. They confessed that poverty had forced them to surrender one of the twins. It was meant to be temporary, but when they later tried to find her, the orphanage had already closed and the girl had vanished. Overcome with anger, Ricardo demanded why they had hidden this from Juliana. With tears, Francisco admitted that shame and fear had silenced them. Believing they were protecting her from pain, They chose to keep the secret. When Juliana grew, met Ricardo, and built her own happiness, they decided it was better left buried. Ricardo shook his head. It's not too late. Her sister is alive, and she deserves the truth. Weeping, Donna Lucia retrieved a small wooden box containing 2 identical baby shoes. These were Juliana's, she whispered. We bought 2 pairs, one for each twin. We kept them, hoping one day we could return them to her sister. Ricardo took the tiny shoes, his throat tight with emotion. This was the final, heartbreaking piece of the puzzle. Returning to Curitiba with the box in hand, Ricardo was determined to find Renata and tell her the truth. He found her at her usual spot by the bus stop. Renata, he began, I know why you look like Juliana. I've learned the truth. He gently explained about the twin sisters, their abandonment, and the secret their parents had kept. Renata gave a bitter laugh, refusing to believe him. I'm no one. They threw me away. Ricardo showed her the baby shoes, explaining they had been bought for both sisters, proof her mother had not forgotten her. Renata, her eyes brimming, insisted she was just someone people ignored. When Ricardo offered help, telling her she was part of his life and Lucas's, she asked, Why? Out of pity? Ricardo replied that he felt a connection and needed to know the truth. Exhausted from running, she finally murmured, If I agree, it doesn't mean I trust you. It means I'm tired of running. They sat in silence, a fragile thread of hope between them. Ricardo gave her time, then returned with a backpack filled with necessities to show she mattered. Though weary, she accepted a clean jacket. He suggested visiting Abrigo Nova Vita, a supportive shelter. To his surprise, she agreed. Unlike her past experiences, the director, Cynthia, welcomed her warmly. Though wary, Renata admitted, It's not so bad. It was a small but important victory. She agreed to stay at Abrigo Nova Vita and even see a doctor. Nervous, she let Ricardo schedule an appointment at Clinica Bistar, where she was received with respect. Dr. Pedro examined her, and though she flinched at the blood test, his gentle manner surprised her. In the car afterward, hearing a familiar song, she recalled Juliana had loved it. I suppose I would too if I had my own room, she said with a faint smile. Ricardo promised that one day she would. Days later, Renata sent Ricardo a short message, come. He rushed to the shelter, finding her waiting in the garden. After long silence, she began sharing her story, vivid dreams of a girl identical to her but happy, her desperate escape from the shelter at 16, her years surviving. On the streets, the brief kindness of an old man who later died, and the cruel names she endured. Her voice broke as she revealed her deepest wound. At 17, terrified and alone, she gave birth to a child, but was forced to give him up for adoption. I never saw him again. I don't even know if he's alive. Tears streamed as she whispered, I'm telling you this because for the first time, I feel like someone is truly listening. Ricardo took her hand. No one is strong all the time, he reassured her when she admitted she wasn't as strong as people thought. He promised she deserved everything, and that he would stay by her side. I don't want to go back to the streets, she confessed. Then don't, he said softly. Stay. We'll figure it out. One day at a time. 2 days later, Ricardo brought a sealed envelope to Abrigo Nova Vita. Renata was having tea. Cynthia, sensing the moment's gravity, quietly stepped away. Ricardo offered her a DNA test to confirm her relation to Juliana. Renata froze, fear flickering in her eyes. She hesitated, afraid of disappointment. Ricardo promised, We'll face it together. 2 hours later, a saliva sample was collected at a specialized clinic. 5 days afterward, Ricardo received the message. Results ready. 99.999% genetic compatibility confirmed. He called Renata and after a long silence, she agreed to see him. Waiting with a firm gaze, she asked, "Is it true?" "Yes," Ricardo confirmed. She crossed her arms, struggling to absorb the truth. "I had a sister all along. She never knew about me, did she?" Ricardo shook his head. "No. Your parents thought it was for the best." A bitter laugh escaped her. "For whose best? I grew up believing I was broken, invisible. But now I see I wasn't invisible. I was erased." Ricardo stepped closer. "No one will erase you again." Tears finally spilled down her face. "I don't know what comes next, how to live a normal life." "We'll figure it out together," Ricardo promised, taking her hand. News of Renata's arrival and her uncanny resemblance to Juliana reached Livia, Juliana's sister, and Ricardo's unspoken rival in business. Fearing for her own position, Livia secretly gathered damaging information against Renata. Confronting Ricardo, she accused Renata of exploitation. Ricardo calmly revealed the DNA proof and rejected her claims. Furious, Livia orchestrated a false theft accusation against Renata at a pharmacy, forcing Ricardo to intervene. Recognizing Livia's ruthlessness, he vowed to shield Renata. Despite Livia's cruelty, Renata's life began to change. She faced her inner battles daily, enrolling in manicure courses and learning financial independence. Lucas soon called her Aunt Renata, while Ricardo remained her anchor. Livia, undeterred, commissioned a slanderous article portraying Renata as a manipulator. Heartbroken, Renata disappeared until Ricardo found her in tears. He assured her it was Livia's doing, not her fault. Later, encouraged by women at the shelter, Renata hesitantly joined a beauty day event. As she gave manicures, her hands steadied and her confidence bloomed. A journalist from a respected newspaper, eager to correct the earlier defamation, interviewed her. For the first time, Renata publicly shared her entire story, from abandonment to the DNA test, and Livia's malicious attack. "Ricardo only extended a hand," she said firmly. The article spread widely, garnering immense public support, but Livia launched her final strike. 2 weeks later, Ricardo received a court summons. Livia was suing, alleging that Renata threatened the family's assets and Lucas's inheritance, demanding she be declared legally unrelated. Ricardo trembled with fury, but Renata, also summoned, declared calmly, "I'm ready to fight." Together, with a trusted lawyer, they built their case. Armed with DNA results, the parents' confession, testimony from Ana Lucia, and Renata's recorded statement. At the hearing, Livia appeared confident. Her lawyer painted Renata as an opportunist, but Ricardo's lawyer unveiled a devastating document, proof of Livia's embezzlement of company funds over 2 years, provided anonymously. Ricardo was stunned. Livia went pale, her composure crumbling. The judge, composed, referred the matter to prosecutors. Livia's lawsuit was dismissed, while she faced charges of fraud and abuse of power. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Renata, standing tall, declared, "I am not a scandal. I am a person, and no one will erase me again." Ricardo squeezed her hand tightly, and they walked out. Not as victim and savior, but as two survivors bound by resilience. Life slowly settled. Ricardo took indefinite leave, focusing on Lucas and a simpler life. Their first trip as a family, to a quiet retreat in São Paulo, brought Renata profound peace. She marveled at stars for the first time without city lights, while Lucas joyfully taught her how to swim. Their laughter marked the beginning of a new chapter. Back in Curitiba, her confidence grew. She completed her manicure course and, with Ricardo's help, opened Renata Estética e Unhas. At the opening, Lucas proudly read aloud a note he had written. "We found you on the street, but now the street will never find you again." Tears filled Renata's eyes. That evening, she told Ricardo how precious the salon was to her. He surprised her with an airline ticket to Florianopolis to show her the sea meeting the sky. She held his hand, the silence filled with unspoken promises. One night, holding keepsakes from her past, she confided in Ricardo her longing to find her son. Though terrified of rejection, he supported her search. Weeks later, Daniel located him, Gabriel, 23, an intern at Ricardo's own company in Curitiba. The meeting was arranged. With trembling words, Renata revealed she was his birth mother, explaining the desperate circumstances that had forced her to give him up, assuring him she had never forgotten. Gabriel, stunned, wept with her. Later, in her apartment, he shared stories of his adoptive family and college. When Lucas arrived, Ricardo explained their new family member. Lucas exclaimed, "So, I have a brother now?" Gabriel laughed warmly. "Yes, a stepbrother. Cool." That evening, Renata gazed out her kitchen window at the humming city, a deep peace filling her small apartment. Ricardo joined her. "You have everything back now, don't you?" he asked softly. "Not everything," she murmured, resting her head on his shoulder. "But the most important things." Ricardo kissed her forehead gently. "What's next for us?" "Whatever we choose together," she replied. "Do you love me?" he asked. "I do," she whispered, eyes meeting his. "Then let's go." "Somewhere, even just for a day," Ricardo said with a smile. "Only if we take Lucas," she teased. "And now Gabriel, too," he added. They laughed, sealing it with a kiss. In that simple kitchen, surrounded by the echoes of children's laughter and a past finally reconciled with the present, love had found its true home. What did you think of today's story? What would you do if someone you lost long ago suddenly appeared alive and walking before you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for listening.